My husband left me during his guy's trip and emptied our joint account he had no idea about. The goodbye I didn't see coming. It was supposed to be a normal weekend. A quick getaway for Aaron and his friends, some fishing, a little too much beer, stories they'd come back laughing about. I kissed him goodbye at the airport curb, still sleepy from the early hour. He was smiling, joking about how I'd better not binge watch our favorite show without him. The morning sunlight bounced off the windshield, and I remember thinking how ordinary it all felt. Safe, even love you, I said, pulling away from his neck, which still smelled like that sandalwood cologne I had picked out for him. Love you too, he replied, then grabbed his duffel bag and headed inside. No backward glance. No hesitation. Just the end of what I thought was another ordinary morning. What I didn't know was that it would also be the end of my marriage. That evening, I got a text. Aaron, hey, Mel. I need some space. I'm not coming back. I stared at the screen, blinking, convinced I was hallucinating. Surely he meant he'd extended the trip. Maybe something had happened to one of the guys. But then the next message came. Aaron, I've emptied our joint account. It's cleaner this way. Please don't contact me. The blood drained from my face. My breath caught. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Again. Again. I called Brian, his best friend. No answer. I tried Jenna, the wife of one of the other guys. She hadn't heard anything either. In fact, she thought the guys were still together on the trip. Her husband hadn't picked up in 2 days. Panic turned to nausea. I opened our bank app. Every cent we had saved for a house. Every paycheck we had pooled. Every birthday deposit from my parents. Gone. My fingers trembled as I searched for anything, an email, a clue, a reason. My inbox was empty. My shared Google Calendar still showed his return flight. He'd vanished like a ghost. Only later, much later, would I realize the signs had always been there. Missed dinners. Locked phones. The work trips that didn't add up. But in that moment, all I could feel was devastation and disbelief. The man I married, who had promised to grow old with me, had simply left. And he'd taken everything. Picking up the pieces, I stayed in bed for 3 days. It wasn't dramatic. Just paralyzing. My limbs felt like concrete. My chest, hollow. The betrayal had burrowed into my bones. I lived off water and toast and the hope that I'd wake up and find it had all been some horrible mistake, but it wasn't. I finally got up when the landlord left a notice under the door. Rent was due. I couldn't even cover half of it. I called my sister Tara, who lived 2 cities away. I hadn't told her yet. The words felt too raw, too unreal. But I had no choice. When she arrived that night, she didn't lecture. Didn't cry. Just climbed into bed with me and held me while I broke down all over again. I'll help you get through this, she whispered. We spent the next week piecing together a plan. First, legal advice. Second, financial triage. I had a small emergency account, money Aaron didn't know about, ironically something he'd mocked me for setting up. Don't you trust me? He'd once said. Thank God I didn't. I used it to get a new apartment, tiny, overpriced, but mine. I contacted the bank. Reported the withdrawal. But since Aaron's name was on the account too, there was nothing they could do. The money was joint property. I called his parents. His mother wept. His father cursed. They had no idea where he was. Then I got the message. Kelsey, hey Melissa. I don't know how to say this, but I'm with Aaron. He said you guys were separated. I just found out about the account. I'm so sorry. I stared at her photo. Blonde. Young. Big eyes full of guilt. Probably had no clue what she'd stepped into. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. Instead, I focused on what I could control. Point 1. Step forward. 2 steps through fire. I applied for remote marketing contracts. Anything I could find. Copywriting, content planning, branding strategy. I had let my career lag behind Aaron's. He made more, so it made sense for me to support him while working part-time. Another trap I hadn't seen until it snapped shut. Within weeks, I was juggling 2 freelance gigs and taking online courses in full-stack development. I needed more than survival. I needed a future, but it was hard. Lonely. Humiliating. One evening, I found myself crying in the grocery store aisle because I couldn't afford the organic peanut butter I used to buy without thinking. Another time, I snapped at a barista for messing up my order, then immediately apologized, embarrassed and shaking. Tara called every day. "You're doing great," she'd say. "Keep going." I wanted to believe her. Then came the local tech mentorship program. I almost didn't apply. It felt like aiming too high. But I filled out the form anyway, half-hearted, convinced they'd pick someone younger, smarter, more qualified. But they picked me, and everything began to shift. An unexpected turn. The mentorship program changed my life. I met Alex, my mentor, on the first day. A former startup founder turned tech consultant. He was sharp, compassionate, and brutally honest. He didn't sugarcoat anything. "You've got a story," he said during our second session. "Use it." He challenged me to build a project based on real experience. So I created an app to help individuals track and recover from financial abuse, complete with resources, emergency budgeting tools, and community support. It caught the attention of one of the program sponsors, a venture capital group interested in social impact tools. They invited me to pitch. Me, a woman who had once sobbed over peanut butter. I practiced relentlessly. Tara helped me prepare mock presentations, coached my tone, and even loaned me her lucky blazer. The night before the pitch, I barely slept, but I nailed it. We didn't win first place, but the judges personally reached out afterward. One offered to mentor me further. Another introduced me to a startup incubator. It wasn't just a door. It was a new world opening up, the spark of something new. Alex and I kept in touch even after the program ended. He became a sounding board, a guide, and, eventually, something more. It started subtly. Shared coffees turned into dinners. Encouragement turned into teasing. One night, after a long session debugging a stubborn app error, he looked at me across my tiny kitchen table and said, "You're the bravest person I know." I laughed, disbelieving. "Me? Brave? You rebuilt your life from ashes. That's brave." We didn't kiss that night. Or the next. But the feeling grew, steady and warm. When he finally did kiss me, it was on a bench outside a conference center, the air cold and sharp with winter. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was gentle, uncertain. "Real. I don't want to be another mistake," he whispered. "You're not," I said, and I meant it. The full circle. The app, Resurge, launched 6 months later with the help of the incubator and a small grant. It reached over 10,000 users in its first month. Survivors, advocates, counselors. Messages poured in. "You gave me hope. I thought I was alone. I finally have a plan." I was invited to speak at panels and conferences. Journalists began asking for interviews. I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving, and helping others do the same. Aaron reached out once. Just an email. "Aaron, saw the article. Congrats. I know I messed up. Hope you're doing well." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Reflections and resilience. I began journaling again, something I hadn't done since college. Each entry was part confession, part strategy session. I wrote letters to myself. I recorded small victories, my first paid contract, the first 5-star review on the app, the moment I realized I hadn't thought about Aaron in days. In one entry, I wrote, "Healing isn't a straight line. Some days I miss the idea of him more than the reality. But I don't miss the silence, the doubt, the waiting for someone who'd already left. Another entry said, "Today, I presented to a room full of venture capitalists. I didn't stammer. I didn't apologize. I owned it. I owned my story." Reading back over those entries now, I see a woman crawling out of the dark, clutching whatever light she could find. Sometimes it was my sister's voice. Sometimes Alex's laughter. Sometimes just the quiet knowledge that I was still here, still standing. Moving beyond survival research grew faster than any of us expected. We onboarded counselors, partnered with shelters, and launched regional chapters. Each milestone reminded me how far I'd come from the day I stared at an empty bank account and an empty future. Alex and I moved in together after a year. It was the scariest decision I'd made since Aaron left. But it felt right. Not because it was perfect, nothing ever is, but because it was real. He saw all of me. The strength. The scars. And he stayed. There are still days I flinch when I see a missed call from an unknown number. Still moments when I hesitate before checking my bank balance, bracing for a zero. But they're fewer now. Softer, because I trust myself. The letter I never sent. Dear Aaron, I could write a list of everything you took from me. My savings. My peace. My sense of safety. But here's what you gave me without meaning to: resilience. Clarity. The strength to build something that matters. I'm not who I was when you left. I'm stronger. Softer in the right places. Sharper in the others. I built a life that's mine, not defined by the way you broke it, but by the way I chose to rebuild. So no, I don't hate you. I don't miss you. I'm grateful you're gone, because in losing you, I found myself. Melissa.